This is Bleav in Buckeyes. I'm Bryant Browning with All-American cornerback Chimdi Chekwa. We got a great show for you guys because we got a big one this week. It's not Michigan week quite yet, but it is Indiana Hoosiers week, man. How you doing, Chim? How you feeling, man?
I
Feeling
feel
pumped
good,
up?
man. I feel good.
Good for the week?
Big game coming up. Not so big of a game in the past, right? Northwestern. So, it's time, man. This is one of those games that, start to build towards that championship type run. So we'll see how they fare this weekend.
Yeah, that's for sure. Indiana is currently ranked 5th in the nation. Ohio State is sitting at, I Bleav, number 2. Obviously, really doesn't matter. But first, we need to recap the game this past weekend against Northwestern. We did travel to Chicago, played at Wrigley Field, the historic Wrigley Field in Chicago, and we took care of business 31-7 against Northwestern. But Northwestern did score first, man. So I guess real quick, what did you see from that game as Northwestern scored for us? Then we kind of woke up and clicked and then went on a long run before we kind of put away that chain.
Yeah, Northwestern throughout history, since I've been a Buckeye, man, Northwestern to me has been a first half, maybe two and a half quarter type team. At least when they played Ohio State. I'm just going by my experience. So I didn't expect that first touchdown to amount to anything threatening, but they did have, Ohio State did start a little bit slow defensively. But what was interesting to me was the approach. It seemed like they were blitzing on every single snap. Just like, we at Wrigley Field, we want to get out of here. We're going to go take their heads off early. And Northwestern had a plan for it. They had a counter to it, some screens here. They had some run plays where, you blitz everybody, you get past to that second level, ain't nobody else left. So, I guess starting off, Northwestern had, a pretty good approach. They were able to execute well. Ohio State, I wouldn't say they backed off the blitzing. They seemed to mix it up a little bit more the rest of the game, and it wasn't going to be a close contest. But I know there were some Buckeye fans that were nervous early. So
Yeah, rightfully so, right? We know Northwestern enough to know that they're going to play sound football, right? They're never going to have the athletes to quite match up with the Ohio States of the world, but we expect them to kind of go out there and beat themselves, more or less. So you have to attack them. Like you said, attack them, get a lead, start to, let your preference run, as in reality kind of sets down that they can't hang with us, and then you kind of go ahead and take care of the game from there. And that's, I guess, a story of kind of, what took place. Northwestern scored for it. I mean, the fans was going crazy. Northwestern, they was tearing up that baseball stadium with that first score. I'm sure they was feeling really good. But obviously, it was 11 o'clock kickoff in Chicago, which is obviously early for our guys. It took a little bit to wake up. Second quarter, they woke up and was able to kind of take care of business. Want to shout out Carnell Tate. Now, we all know Carnell Tate is big-time recruit coming to Ohio State. And I guess this season he is kind of like, a little bit behind the 8 ball with Emeka Egbuka and him being in his final season at Ohio State. And then you got the all-star, superstar wide receiver coming in as a true freshman in Jeremiah Smith. Carnell Tate, this feels like he kind of, he's not talked about as much, but Coach Day gave him a shout-out. He was returning home, born and, I Bleav, raised in the Chicago area. And he has a big game. Catches 2 touchdowns, 4 catches, 50-plus yards receiving. How does that make you feel about Carnell Tate? We all know the drama and the situation he's, going to before he got to school, but him there to catch 2 touchdowns on his home turf like that.
Yeah, I think Ryan Day said it best in the post game. He mentioned, when you're on the football field, like the game doesn't care about the stuff that you're going through. The game doesn't, care. You got to go out there and play ball. But the team cares. The coach cares. And, it felt good to see him get 2 touchdowns. It felt good to see him get loose in his hometown where he had a lot of family coming to the game in a place where, you mentioned the tragedy with his mom. So it was great to see him be able to get some of that home cooking and be able to, shine in that light. And Carnell Tate, let's make no mistake about it. Carnell Tate is a special talent.
Oh, yeah.
Right? There's only one football to go around. So when Jeremiah Smith's getting targets, when Emeka Egbuka's getting targets, Carnell Tate may not be getting passes. But those cornerbacks that are guarding him, they're still getting routed up. Don't get it twisted, man. I play corner, right? There could be a great play on the field. He may not be getting targets. It may be a run play, but that's the guy he's still giving you moves. They're still getting routed up. So he's a special talent, and he's going to be a guy, I think, as we continue to go through this season, is going to potentially get the single coverage. He's going to get the one-on-ones, and we have to utilize him and maximize his talent. So it was good to see him get loose in his hometown with all his family there. So I was happy to see that.
Yeah, man. And whenever I watch Carnell, especially when he came in last year and, the plays he was able to make as a true freshman, he reminds me of Garrett Wilson. I know that's like a really high praise, right? Because Garrett Wilson was fantastic, but I just feel like he has that ability, obviously, not so far on the catches this season, but, he obviously got more time in his Ohio State career, and he could definitely play up to that level, in my humble opinion. But wanted to shout out the special teams. Obviously, we talk about Northwestern playing good ball. They made a mistake with a punt, was able to get it blocked on it. But that's been kind of a story this season, right? Last season, we was talking about how the special teams was really non-existent. Fired the special teams coach. Then Coach Day said he's going to do a little bit more there. And you've been seeing now some plays made in the special teams, making some field goals, like the punt this week, like the punt, I believe, against Nebraska, and trying to return the ball when we have opportunities to. What are your thoughts on the special teams? Obviously, against Northwestern, wasn't, we expect to dominate. But play made on the special teams, I mean, it matters, right? When you have national championship hope.
Special teams matter. Special teams matter. There's so many hidden yards that are gained and lost on special teams. And you can see the attention to detail and the importance and the emphasis put on it. You see Emeka Buka back there catching punts. You see Caleb Downs back there catching punts.
I think Travion Henderson has some returns this week as well.
Travion Henderson returning kickoffs. You see a block punt, whatever happened with Northwestern is a special teams play. Versus Purdue, we have a block punt. Like there is a level of emphasis, focus, and effort when they do punt return. You see our starting corners out there blocking the gunners for the opposite team. That means, look, we're gonna take this serious, and it's important, and that's necessary. If we watch it, that team up north last year in their run, they had really good special teams play. They got a lot of yardage. They got a lot of good field position because of their ability to flip the field on special teams. So that's a factor in it. And I'm relieved that it has now become a factor instead of being a negative, really holding back both the offense and the defense.
Yeah, that's for sure. Yeah, because I mean, you just think about the past couple of years. I'm not gonna harp on it too long. But it was always saying, like, all we could talk about special teams is when they made a mistake, right? There's never no positive play, right? We just hope that they did the right thing. But every once in a while, they didn't do the right thing. They do something, like, weird, like try to, like, run a fake in an impossible situation, right? And it's like, what happened? Or it seemed like the center snapped it to the right. All this kind of just little weird stuff where a guy muff a punt and then it kind of comes back and bite her, things of that nature. So, it's good to see, right? I think we talk about three phases of any football team, and obviously special teams is a big one. We was always trained if you could do something big in the special team, block a punt, return a kick, something of that nature, your chances of winning obviously skyrockets, and you want to give yourself every opportunity to win games here. Real quick, last thing on the Northwestern game, it blew up, especially across the Buckeye Nation. It was a dirty play, man. There ain't no other way to really to say it, man. Robert Fitzgerald, who's a defensive back for Northwestern, Jeremiah caught the play. He was going down for a tackle, and then this guy is like, he's on his legs when he's taking the tackle. Then, like, on the way up, he's like, you could see him actively cranking on Jeremiah Smith's ankle, causing him to leave the game for a little bit. And obviously, he was able to return. Probably got it taped up and was able to get back out there, man. But I mean, I don't know. I want to get your perspective on it because, it's football, right? Tough man sport. And you're supposed to go out there and hit people hard and make tackles and make plays and things of that nature. I don't like to see it, but as a former defensive back, man, what's your opinion on that play particular and then just that style of play in general for people who might not think that's a big deal?
Yeah, it's a weak play. It's a weak play. It's one of those, I got dominated on the field. Right, and I'm gonna try to do a little extra to get back. I mean, that's what it is. It's the reaction post play, where the play's pretty much over, to get a little bit back from a guy who just completely destroyed us destroyed our defense. And that's just what it is. I mean, as a defender, you want to. I mean, I don't want to say you want to hurt somebody, but you're trying to get as aggressive as possible, and you want to teach offensive players a lesson. Like, you're gonna get the ball and do all this stuff. We're gonna teach you a lesson, but you do it within the flow of the game, right? Like, you hit them hard and you get them to the ground, and then that's it, right? So he definitely added a little extra. And I saw recently he deactivated his Twitter because the Buckeye fans been on his head. So
Buckeye Nation got on him. We got us one. That's right.
Right. Hey, the army is ready to go. Like, the Buckeye army is ready to go. In the Twitter world, you can see that play over and over again flow through Twitter, and it's clear what it was. So yeah, it definitely was a dirty play. And
Should he be suspended? What's your thoughts? Should he be suspended a game, 2 games, or something of that nature for a penalty?
Yeah,
it's pretty blatant, right?
Yeah, it's tough. I don't know about a suspension. I don't know in terms of college. Like, I haven't really seen a lot of post play reviews and suspensions. Have you?
But you got to think about it, though. I mean, they got to, and I guess I feel like something should happen, right? It should be some type of penalty due to it because it was clearly excessive. But you got to think, man, they got a targeting rule, right? If you make them, you hit a guy wrong, you out that game. Second half, you out the next, the second half of the following game.
Yeah.
For that, and I mean, when some are clear cut, this guy's, trying to make a bad play, a play that we're trying to get out the game, leading with his head, hitting the guy. Yeah, it should happen. But obviously, sometimes we're not gonna get into that right now. The mistakes are made on that call, but this one is like,
this one is worse than a targeting. Like, this is
right?
This is a clear dirty play, and you really don't see that type of post game suspension because you really don't see this type of plays. Like, you're really like, usually when you do something a little bit dirty, it's still within like the flow of the play. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
Like, it's not a lot of stuff post play where it's that level of extreme. So yeah, it's something that definitely should be looked at.
Yeah, that's for sure. Yeah, I don't know. The former offensive lineman, right? Like you said on defense, we want to hit guys, especially guys good. You want to take it to them during the play, but extra stuff like that, I don't know. I don't think it's not a good part. It's not a part of the game, for most guys. Most guys are not thinking like that, but obviously that guy is, and I think something should happen for it, man. But let's talk about Indiana, man. I mean, we started last week, kind of, getting ready for this game, and now this week is here, man. We had a little bit more time to do some studying, take a look and see Indiana. Like, Indiana's number 5 in the nation. I think their point differential is over 30 points a game. So essentially, not too many games have been close. Their last game against Michigan was the closest game of the season. They obviously still was able to win that one. I believe the score was 20-15, 20-16, or something like that. Michigan had a chance late to 20-15. They had a chance late to win that game, but Indiana was able to stand tall and get the stops needed to get that game won. What's your thoughts, man? Indiana Hoosiers, man, they come into town, riding the high horse, Coach Cignetti. Yeah, man. What's your thoughts on Indiana?
Yeah, and so let's watching Indiana, just getting opportunity to see more of what they do, what they're good at. This to me is the game of the year in terms of being the best indicator of where Ohio State stands in terms of their ability to make a run for the national championship. The Oregon game is an early game. Early on, they had some stuff to work out defensively. They had some things they needed to figure out. The Penn State game is the game that's hyped up. 2 top 5 teams. It's Penn State versus Ohio State, 2 blue bloods going against each other. This game, Indiana is just as a team, they execute offensively and defensively as good as any team in college football, right? And when I say they execute, I mean their coach wants them to do something specifically, and they get it done.
Yeah.
You watch a lot of teams that have a lot of talent that don't do that. I watch them on the field. I know what they're trying to do, and I can see the play. Oh, that guy was in the wrong spot. Oh, this guy didn't do. Oh, this guy sat in this guy too long. Indiana, more than anybody that I've seen, actually executes what the coaches want to do. And this is not a team. See, when we look at Indiana, we see the IU on the helmets, right? Like, we see Indiana, the same Indiana team that we've always seen. This team is not Indiana's players.
Yeah.
Coach Cignetti, to me, is Deion Sanders of the Big Ten. He
Whoa.
literally without the history of being a top player himself, from a coaching standpoint, he went from James Madison to Indiana. He took a bunch of players from James Madison who were really good players, and a bunch of other people from players from the Sun Belt Conference. He basically has like a Sun Belt all-star team of players that he took to Indiana, and obviously Indiana has some players as well, and he got transfers from others. The quarterback from Ohio, who's pretty much a 6-year senior.
Yeah, Chris Roy, yeah. I think he's leading the nation in QBR, so it tells you the type of season he's having, all right?
Yeah, so they're a team that's playing with no expectations, no pressure, a very confident coach who came in talking the entire season. And they get a noon game against Ohio State, not a night game. They're not going to be in this big scary atmosphere, in my opinion. So they get to play free and loose, and they got a really good football team, both offense and defense.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, going into the game, we knew Indiana could score, right? I mean, you've seen the highlight plays, and then, like I said, the point differential kind of tells the story in itself. And on the season, they're averaging 43 points a game. That's pretty good. But also, you got to look at this defense. The defense is the number one defense, and number one run defense. Number one against the run, number 3 total defense, and then they also are as good at getting to making pressures, right? They also top 10 in the nation when it comes to sacks and leading the Big Ten with I believe 31 sacks on the season. So yeah, you see them scoring points. So you think of your old idea, like, yeah, we know Indiana sometimes could put together a pretty solid offense, but now we're looking at really a total package here where you have a defense behind it that's also being very disruptive, challenging teams up front and winning, right, when it comes down to it. And that's how you are able to, keep your stats and flow of the game. I was able to catch some film of them. So, like I said, that last game against Michigan was the closest game of the season. And so I was like, what are they doing? Like, let's dive into it, look at some games and see what are they doing to kind of keep teams you're really off them, right? And I think the biggest thing that jumps out to me when watching Indiana play is like, up front, they do not stay still. Like when the guys lined up at just bet at the snap, he's going to end up somewhere else. There's a ton of stunts. There's a ton of pressures. They're pressuring on first, second down against run fits. They're running twists up front. They're running TTs against the run. They're running TEs against the run as well and pass. They move around a ton, and you have to be ready for that challenge up front, because once again, if you don't know what you're doing or you're a little bit slow, Indiana is taking it to you with that pressure and those stunts that they're coming at you with to kind of keep you off balance as an offense. What did you see from that defense that most likely would give that kind of tells the story of who they are as a team?
Yeah, I think you hit it on the head in terms of their ability to disguise coverage and then get to their spots, get to where they're supposed to be. They are a defense that, one, is going to send the pressure to stop the run. They do all that stunts. They send an extra guy. They are going to stop the run. And then on the back end, they're going to protect the explosive pass, the explosive plays. They're going to drop their linebackers in coverage. They're going to play cover 3, cover 4 on the back end. They're going to play some cover 2. But they are not going to allow for the deep pass. So when it comes to beating Indiana, and I thought Michigan did a decent job of it, but they just didn't have the quarterback to get it done. When it comes to Indiana, there's a lot of space and a lot of yards to be gained, really attacking the linebackers, attacking the interior second level play, because they're going to stay on top of everything. They got decent corners. One of their corners was a freshman All-American last year in the Sun Belt Conference, fast guy out of South Florida. They're going to stay on top, and they're also going to pressure and try to stop the run. And with the RPOs, interior passing game, there's a lot of opportunity. This is a game where I want to kind of go back a little bit to the Ryan Day approach to playing offense, loosen up the defense before we really start trying to attack them in the run. Because I think there's going to be a ton of space for these receivers to catch the ball and run. There's going to be a ton of space for the running back to come out of the backfield, catch passes, to check downs, etc. And I think Indiana's going to allow Ohio State to get those yards. I think they're going to let them go because they can't stop everything at the end of the day. And, I think we loosen them up there, and then throughout the course of the game, at some point, they just won't be able to stop the run attack. I don't think they'll be able to stop the run attack. But I think they're going to leave a lot of yardage to be gained in the middle. And I think we got to take what the defense gives us. And at the end of the day, we go talent for talent. Ohio State is the most talented team across. So when it comes to Ohio State's defense, it's time to, and this is what I think Michigan did in the second half, and I think Indiana they might be better prepared because they faced a Michigan defense. But we need to line up and do a lot of what we've been doing. Send pressure, play tight coverage, win one-on-one matchups. Force the Indiana offensive players to beat us one-on-one on the edges. Yeah, I know everybody's afraid of the back, and they run the back shoulder fade is probably as good as anybody in the country. They've turned a low percentage throw into a pretty decent percentage. But to me, it doesn't matter. Allow our cornerbacks to play tight coverage. They're going to make some plays. We'll force them to do it over and over again. Allow those guys up front to go beat one-on-ones and go hit that quarterback. Because you gotta affect the quarterback in this game, or you're not going to beat Indiana. You got to go hit Chris Work. He's going to get the ball in his hands fast. Doesn't matter. Try to keep hitting them over and over again. And be aggressive against his Indiana team.
Yeah, and then obviously, Chris, he had an injury this year. I Bleav he hurt something on his hand, broke a finger or something like that on his non-throwing hand. So I didn't think it would be very severe. And obviously, I think he didn't miss much time. I think he maybe missed a game or something like that before getting back out there and continuing his season. But he's been playing well. I mean, he's up on the Heisman list, right? As a potential winner. Obviously, if you want to win a Heisman, beating Ohio State is, will up your chances, right? I think that's what keeps Dillon Gabriel up on that Heisman contender list due to that game. But like you said, this is a game that's going to come down to really one-on-one matchups, man. All right? I mean, I think we always know Ohio State has the talent. Sometimes we get concerned about other phases. Is guys doing the right thing? Are they going the right place? What's the mindset of the team when they kind of go out there and play? But we know we had a talent, and I think Indiana, with their approach and how they play the game, attacking up front, playing soft behind, offensively, running the ball. They have two decent running backs that that has solid averages for the season, but they're going to challenge you with their wide receivers against your defensive backs. So you have to kind of just go out there and take on the one-on-one job of winning and winning often, win early if you want to go out there and beat Indiana Hoosier team. Because they also, we're looking at before the game, they also are plus 10 in the turnover margin. So, they're doing a lot of things well. Like when you start looking at the numbers, there's no surprise that Indiana is undefeated because they're playing all phases of the game and doing things to say like, hey, if you want to beat us, we're not going to beat ourselves. You better come out here and take it to us and beat us at some of the things that we do well. Because once again, we're going to put ourselves in the right spot.
In this game, you got to attack matchups. You got to identify the player on Indiana that just doesn't have it. And you got to go after him. And on the other side, you got to trust your guys to be able to win one-on-ones. Look, they got some talented receivers. They got a quarterback.
Five wide receivers that basically has, I'm not going to say identical yardage, but when it comes to catches, they got 5 guys that are essentially identical when it comes to catches on the season. So they're spreading them around for sure.
Right, but you got to let them drop this game, man. You got to line up and be able to play man-to-man, play aggressive, take away, because they're gonna try to take the defensive line out the game with quick passes, right? The only counter to that, play tight coverage and force those guys to be covered when the quarterback's ready to throw, and force that quarterback to hold the ball and hit the quarterback. This is the game. This is when Ohio State versus Indiana has to matter. This is when the players that we have to be better than the other players. And that's just the reality in this game. This quarterback, I think, to me, this quarterback's playing as good as any quarterback in the country. He's probably second in terms of accuracy, but Dillon Gabriel throws a lot of those little short passes. This guy throws the ball down the field. He's going through a lot of reads. He reminds me like Brock Purdy, getting the ball everywhere. We got to line up, play aggressive on the edges, and go attack the quarterback. And then from there, if they can win versus that, then you tip your hat at this point.
Yeah. And just want to shout out real quick, Indiana's defensive line. They're led by Mikhail Kamara. He has 9.5 sacks this season, which in college football, that's a good amount of sacks. So that's a guy we have to get blocked. And he's going to be coming off our edge. Obviously, we know our offensive line has some switching up, right, mixing things up.
Yeah.
With Diamond Jackson now being at that left tackle position. So we have to be ready. Like I said, they do a lot of blitzing, so he's going to be coming. He's all over the field. But we have to be ready for that guy, account for that up front, keep our quarterback clean, and I think we give ourselves a good chance to win with our talented wide receiver bunch. So you on the spot, Chim. What's your thoughts on this game? This is a game I know Bet Online has the spread at 14.5 points.
14.5 points.
I know you like to place a couple bets, not on your team, but a couple bets per week. What's your thoughts, man? You taking Ohio State with the points, or do you think Indiana will be able to kind of play us close? I know you think we're gonna win the game. I'm not even gonna ask you that. But how close do you take it?
So 14.5 points. So real quick, BetOnline is the world's most trusted betting platform, number one source for everything sports. So if you wanna bet, I don't bet on Ohio State games, but 14.5 point underdog, Indiana playing free. Honestly, I think Ohio State beats the spread barely. I think it doesn't. I think it's one of those games that feels closer than what the score ends up being, and somehow they beat the spread. The key for Ohio State is going to be jumping on them early.
Yeah.
Not because they're not gonna. It's not gonna feel like this big pressurized top 5 matchup at a noon game. It's gonna feel like every other type of game. To make it feel like that, they got to take one of those guys. It's about one-on-one matchups. They got to take one of those weak links on the Indiana's defense offensively, hang him over the balcony, and put some pressure on him, and make him feel like, oh, so we're overmatched. On the same way defensively, they got to go hit that quarterback and let him know, like, oh, okay, this is what it feels like playing against Ohio State. I played for the Ohio Bobcats for 4 years. This is what it feels like to play for Ohio State or play against Ohio State. If they can feel that early, then I think Ohio State beats the spread, and whoever bets on Ohio State, to beat the spread will get their money.
Make a couple dollars, man. I'm predicting it's real. I'm predicting a big game for our defensive man: Jack Sawyer, JT, Caden Curry, melting off the edge. CJ Hicks, if they put him on the edge this week, big game for them. I feel like if you're looking at the biggest mismatches, they're offensive tackles versus who the guys we could pick at that defensive end position. But yeah, man. But check us out this week. We'll probably be trying to get some more footage in going into this weekend. We got this big one coming in on our home turf at Ohio Stadium. The Indiana Hoosiers are coming to town. And just keep in mind that Coach Signetti went to that basketball game and said, Purdue sucks. True. Michigan sucks. All right, I see you going there. But Ohio State sucks as well, man. So you got to keep that energy up, Buckeye Nation, that we teach the Hoosiers who runs the Big Ten as we have that showdown this weekend. As always, catch us on all platforms. Like us on YouTube. Catch us on Apple Tunes, Spotify, wherever you do listen to podcasts. We'll be there. And all our shows with an OH.
Ayo.
Go Bucks. Talk to you guys soon.
Go Bucks.